I call the honourable member Chester Burrows.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. And in speaking to this bill, I think it's important to note there are a few things that we witness in this House that are a bit rich. And one of the things that are a bit rich is to hear members from that other side criticise this government's move against domestic and family violence when they introduced into Parliament the bill that the previous Speaker was talking about, currently languishing at number 72 on the order paper, days after this House rose for the last election, and then she talked about urgency. And what urgency did they concern themselves in the last House? They concerned themselves with urgency around the Electoral Finance Act. That's what they did, and what they did was squander the time in this House that they could have been using on this domestic violence legislation, having a tilt at jiggery-pokering election that they knew they were going to lose. They were going to lose, and she gets up in this House and she tries to confront this side of the House with digging around with Parliament's times in order to feather its own nest. The other thing she talked about in urgency, we need to remember, those of us too who were in the House between 05 and 08. And we remember the 1,700 amendments to the ETS legislation that they shoved up in the morning and were law by night. And they want to sit on it, they want to sit tall in the saddle on a high horse and claim the high ground, and they are wrong, and the public out there know it. And another duplicity that I can't get over in this House comes from the Green Party. Because the Green Party, in terms of this bill, believe that it's fine to go on to private property to do $1 million worth of damage to the Waihope Sky Base and walk away free because of an ill-conceived perception of the claim of right. And at the same time, it is wrong to live in a household where you know child abuse is going on and to be able to walk away from any culpability whatsoever and say, it's not my kid, you can't put it on me, it's not my kid, you can't put it on me. And then to try and justify that ridiculous stance on this piece of child protection legislation by saying it's bigger than just this. You know, we talk about poverty, we talk about the causes and the drivers of child abuse, we talk about those who are living in inequity, we talk about those who have had a hard upbringing, those people who have been abused themselves and go on to replicate that behaviour, and it is all true. They all add to child abuse, and guess what, Mr Speaker? You cannot fix it with one piece of legislation. We've got laws in this country against rape. People still get raped. We have laws in this country against murder, and they still murder. We have laws against child abuse in this country. Children are still abused. Abused more than in just about any other Western country in this world. And we've heard a number of names called out tonight, but what we forget is this. If any one of us had the finger pointed at us right now or a microphone shoved under our nose, we might at best be able to name 5 children who have been abused in the last 10 years and killed. But what we know is about one a month children are killed in this country. So over the last 10 years, there's 120 of them, and largely they are faceless and nameless because of that abuse and the fact that that abuse is endemic in this country. And I can't believe that a party that sits where the Green Party sits won't support this legislation on those spurious arguments. But I don't know why I am surprised. Because this is the party who believes that you should not be able to go to the supermarket and buy alcohol, but you should be able to go to the dairy and buy chronic. That if you've got a bad back, you can grow a few plants of dope, and that isn't a problem whatsoever. They believe you can go and pee in a stream and poo in a caravan site, but you've got to have a clean streams accord and do something about that. It's absolutely duplicitous, and they would criticise the dairy cow for doing exactly the same thing, bearing in mind their animal. So it doesn't surprise me whatsoever that the Green Party has absolutely no problem with saying, in terms of this bill, yep, walk on to Waihope, slash the balloon with a knife, do $1 million worth of damage, but if you're living in a house where you know a child is being abused and it's not your baby, walk away scot-free. Well, rubbish. We believe that people should be able to be held account. Te Urawa Flavell made the point it takes a village to raise a family, and I believe that it does take a village to raise a family, and I believe that in this time, in this country, with the statistics that we have to deal with, that we should hold that village responsible for the raising of that child. This bill also, I've got to say to the House, there is nothing worse than having to investigate child abuse allegations and child homicide. And when you walk into a house and you are met with just a closed-door attitude, the fact that whoever killed that child, whoever abused that child, there is only 2 witnesses, and one is dead, and at the same time could never speak for themselves. As an investigator, it is a horrible situation to be in. At the same time, trying to investigate, for instance, the death in an institution, where everybody involved in that institution has every reason in the world to shut up and say nothing, and the rule of law and inculcating the right to silence allows them to do that. It is a very, very difficult prospect to do. And I can say that as investigators who head about investigating child abuse and child sexual abuse, there is nothing harder to investigate. I'm pleased to see that the government has taken a stance around offending in respect of sexual grooming. And the provisions of this bill allow, for instance, an investigator who is engaging with a paedophile online to be able to make an arrest, hold someone to account and put them before the court on charges prior to an offence actually taking place. Because obviously for an investigator to masquerade as a minor online in order to bring out the paedophile and to be able to confront them with the nature of their offending and explore what other offences they may well have been involved in, you need the ability, or the investigator needs an ability to be able to engage and to stop the offender short of committing an offence against a minor. The bill also moves to increase the sentence for carrying a knife. And in a number of our communities around this country, carriage of a knife has become a regular thing. And young people, when they're heading uptown on a Friday night, unfortunately a number of them are carrying a knife. Previously the law required evidence of an intention to use that knife in a crime. Now this is without reasonable excuse, and so it should be, because the risk of carrying a knife in volatile situations is one that is far too severe. I want to finish by commenting on some remarks made by Sir William Seo in his respect of where this government has gone in respect of law and order. And he was talking about South Auckland and its record of crime. And we need to just bear in mind that going into the last election, the previous government had 300 police left in their quota of 1,000 to put on the street. And the incoming national government said, we'll take that 300 and we'll add another 300 to it. And those 300 of those 600 places were placed in South Auckland. And what that has meant in South Auckland, where that member resides, is 25 police cars, double crewed, and their relievers and their supervisors, 24 hours a day. That government had 9 long years to do it and didn't. And what we have seen since that time is a dramatic reduction in crime in South Auckland. That is lives saved in South Auckland, albeit we'll be waiting a real long time before that side would ever acknowledge any of it. More fool them.